In the face of China's repeated warnings, Japan has shown complete disregard, prompting China to escalate its diplomatic actions. On November 21st, China's permanent representative to the United Nations, Fu Kang, sent a letter to UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. In the letter, China clearly stated that if Japan dares to use force to intervene in the Taiwan Strait situation, such an act would constitute aggression. China would then exercise its right of self-defense granted by the UN Charter and international law, firmly safeguarding national sovereignty and territorial integrity. The letter explicitly named Japan, stressing that as a defeated nation in World War II, Japan must deeply reflect on its historical crimes, honor its past commitments regarding the Taiwan issue, immediately stop crossing red lines, and retract its erroneous statements. China subsequently distributed this letter to all UN member states as an official UN document. This is not mere media publicity, it is a formal notification to the entire international community. The significance is profound. This move effectively establishes a conditional casus belli, publicly specifying the conditions under which China's right to self-defense would be triggered. In short, if Japan uses force to intervene in the Taiwan Strait in any form that China defines as military intervention, China will treat it as an act of aggression and launch a self-defense counterattack against Japan. This marks a shift from China's long-held stance of never firing the first shot. China is making it clear it does not need to wait for Japanese missiles to hit Chinese territory. Any Japanese military intervention in the Taiwan Strait could trigger China's right to strike first. Distributing the letter to all UN member states is not about seeking public sympathy. If that were the goal, China would use the media. Submitting it as a formal document is more akin to a diplomatic notification, establishing the conditions for future military action and making clear who would bear responsibility if war breaks out. Military moves follow immediately. On November 22nd, the day after the public announcement, the PLA declared a military mission and maritime closure in the Yellow Sea. Unlike previous 3-day closures, this one lasts 2 full weeks. This is an unmistakable signal. China believes the situation is escalating and its dissatisfaction is far more serious than before. How did Japan respond? On November 23rd, Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi told reporters that Japan will proceed as planned to deploy missiles on islands near Taiwan, including 50 km-range air defense missiles on Yonaguni Island, though militarily limited in threat. The timing, immediately after China's UN letter, is a blatant provocation and shows no hint of reflection. Japan's national mentality is again sliding toward militarism. Takeichi Sanae openly proclaimed Japan is back, a phrase widely understood even in Taiwan's media to mean the empire has returned. Japan is signaling openly that it intends to re-emerge through military power, targeting China. China fully recognizes this, but must ensure the world also sees it, hence the repeated notifications and formal statements. Japan will never strike first. History disagrees. Many argue that China's overwhelming superiority ensures Japan would never dare attack first. But that assumption has failed before. Before Pearl Harbor, Japan was vastly weaker than the United States. No rational observer believed Japan would initiate war, yet Japan attacked anyway. This is the logic of militarism. If militarism followed normal logic, it wouldn't be militarism or fascism. The Yudasgud is a different story. China and the United States are extremely unlikely to engage in full-scale war. There is no existential threat. China will not cross the Pacific to invade the US. The Yudarasat will not attempt a landing on the Chinese mainland. Both are nuclear powers. Their strategic competition concerns interests, not survival. The Yudasa values allies, but in a calculable way. Recent events, such as Washington's treatment of Europe and Ukraine, show that loyalty can be priced. Japan is important to the US, but not on par with Europe. China does not want the Yuda to collapse nor seek a life-and-death clash. China's long-stated position, we do not seek to be the world's hegemon, reassures many, but also worries others. A world without a stabilizing major power quickly descends into chaos. Even a flawed global order is better than no order. Otherwise, the world becomes a battlefield of endless local wars. The Yuda style is visibly declining, but China is not rushing to replace it. China advocates a peaceful rise, gradually assuming more responsibility without destabilizing global systems. East Asia is the first test of global leadership. If China cannot ensure order in East Asia, it cannot hope to shape global order. China wants the US to withdraw its military presence from East Asia, but no United States president would do so without overwhelming justification or a military defeat. Thus, Japan may become a proxy test, a crisis that determines who ultimately controls East Asia, and one that gives the USA face-saving pretext to retreat. To maintain moral clarity and international legitimacy, any conflict must be triggered by Japan, not China. Japan firing the literal first shot is unnecessary. Military interference in the Taiwan Strait already qualifies under China's newly defined conditions. No country except Japan has objected to China's definition since the letter was issued. The definition is now effectively locked in. If war comes, China will be morally justified. China does not need to convince its own people. Anti-Japanese sentiment is historically rooted and deeply unified. During the anti-Japanese war, Japan caused 35 million Chinese casualties when China had only 400 million people, meaning roughly 1 in 10 Chinese were killed or wounded. Nearly every family suffered. China does not want war, but must clarify its stance, inform the world in advance, and hold the moral high ground. If Japan truly dares to escalate, China will be unified to an extreme degree. Japan continues to provoke, increasing China's moral leverage each time. This will reduce China's casualties should a self-defense counterattack become necessary. Let us see how far Japan's recklessness will go.